No American should die for Israel. No American should die to help Donald Trump cover up the Epstein files. And no American should die in a war that was started for the purposes of market manipulation. But that is what is going to continue to happen because Donald Trump is clearly escalating his war on Iran, a country that he said he had destroyed all military capabilities. But that is not the case because a U.S. fighter jet was just struck and crashed over Iran, where there is now a search for the crew because Donald Trump is in the pocket of Israel, because Donald Trump wants to cover up the Epstein files and because Donald Trump can profit from this war. And of course, in response, he is making an insane post, making an insane threat, and showing that this war is just going to escalate, a war that nobody wants. We are going to get into this post. I want to talk more broadly about what it means, but first, we have to start with this devastating and very scary news. This is a developing story, but I want to start with the latest from CNN.
This morning, Iran is claiming that its forces downed a U.S. military fighter jet in central Iran. State media have released a series of photos, they say, of supposed proof. CNN's Jim Sciutto is live this morning in Tel Aviv to start us off this hour. Jim, what's the very latest you're hearing about this?
So, Kate, I want to begin again, as I began last hour, by saying we need to be very careful with this. Iranian state media, as you noted, is reporting that Iran has downed a U.S. military jet over Iran. The U.S. military has not yet commented on this or confirmed it, though multiple folks from CNN have now reached out to Central Command asking that exact question. What we do know is that images are emerging online of wreckage from what appears to be a U.S. military aircraft. One particular piece of that wreckage appears to be part of a tail section vertical stabilizer of what would be consistent with F-15 fighter jet. Now, that is a jet that has two pilots. You may remember that three F-15s were shot down by friendly fire over Kuwait in the early days of this war. So once again, Iran is claiming this. There are a number of images online that show wreckage on the ground, and you have Iranian state TV broadcasting images of that wreckage. But again, we're seeking comment or confirmation from the U.S. military, and the U.S. military to date is not yet doing so.
Donald Trump has talked nonstop about the fact that we have obliterated every missile that Iran has, that we have completely wiped out all military capabilities. And he says that because he wants to appear tough. He says that also because he wants to use it as justification of why a ground invasion would be so easy. They're completely decimated. We're just going to walk in and take the oil. Donald Trump has always talked about take the oil. Donald Trump has never specified what take the oil means, and we're actually going to talk about that in a little bit. But Trump wants to posture as if Iran is totally obliterated, to say that he achieved one of his military aims, of which he never laid out, but especially just because he wants to appear strong. But he's not, given this new report from CNN, that one, should make us all much more afraid, and two, renders the post that Donald Trump made that we're going to get into insane.
We have some breaking news for you tonight with a CNN exclusive report, as sources are telling us here tonight that recent U.S. intelligence assessments found roughly half of Iran's missile launchers are still intact, and that thousands of one-way attack drones are still in Iran's arsenal tonight. That's despite daily U.S. and Israeli airstrikes that we've seen against Iranian military targets for the past 5 weeks. And I should note, this assessment that my colleagues are reporting on tonight might include launchers that are currently inaccessible, such as those that are buried by strikes or not just completely destroyed. The intelligence, though, does offer a more nuanced picture that we're getting of Iran's capabilities that they still have right now than what we have heard from the White House since the beginning of this war. Joining me tonight is Sue Gore.
Americans are going to be shot down over Iran because Donald Trump has not completely obliterated their military arsenal. This is a devastating story. But what makes it so scary is that it will only continue to happen. The information that is being presented to us, the public, about this war, what a shock, Republican president, is a lie. They are lying to us. They are lying to us. Pete Hegseth was threatening satellite intel companies because he didn't want them to be able to show images of what is happening in Iran, on behalf of Israel as well, because he didn't want them showing images of what was happening in Lebanon. Because Pete Hegseth is overseeing the giant contracts that are given out to these satellite companies, so of course they're beholden to him. This is crazy, and it is only going to get worse, as Donald Trump's post indicated. Trump wrote early this morning, after the fighter jet was reportedly hit, with a little more time, Donald Trump says, we can easily open the Hormuz Strait, take the oil, and make a fortune. It would be a gusher for the world? ? President Donald J. Trump. So, first of all, why are there question marks? Why are you questioning a statement that you're making? Two, this is Donald Trump's new goal. Donald Trump wants to take the Strait of Hormuz. Now, whether taking the strait means that we're like putting a toll on any ships coming across. I don't know how we do that besides permanently setting up a police state in the Strait of Hormuz, which would be more costly than any economic benefit we could derive out of it. It would be costly to put that in place. It'd be costly. That'd be a ground invasion. But what Donald Trump might be suggesting with, we will own the strait will be ours, a threat that he is making against Iran to take it, is that Donald Trump wants a further escalation of this war. He either wants a further escalation of this war or he wants to say that Iran reopening the Strait of Hormuz is a military victory for us, which it isn't, because it already was. It already was open. There is nothing more Trump than creating a problem, letting it dissipate, and then saying, oh man, what a great job I did solving that problem. You created the problem. But I don't think that's what Donald Trump is after. I do think that this is a direct Trump threat, a thrump, if you will, of Trump saying to Iran, we are going to take the Strait. We are going to take Kharg Island. We are going to take the oil. But what does that look like? That looks like setting up shop in Iran. It sounds like a ground invasion that isn't just a couple of days or a couple of weeks, but is a long-term U.S. installment. And that is not what we want. Nobody wants that. That is not going to decrease the price of oil. How much did our invasion and supposed taking the oil operation in Venezuela, how much did that drop the price of gasoline? I don't remember. Do you know why I don't remember? Because it didn't. And so nobody remembers, because it didn't. This isn't about taking the oil for the benefit of you and I. This is just going to help giant oil companies. But it's not, because it's not going to happen. Donald Trump just wants justification to continue these threats. That is what he is looking for. He is looking for further justification to continue his war on Iran. And it used to be, that's why I wanted to play that clip from Caitlin Collins, it used to be that Iran was so militarily decimated that we could just walk on in there. You and I, you just drop us in and we'll walk around because they got no missiles and they got no guns. It's just BB guns. Remember when Donald Trump said that? Remember when he said that to a reporter, saying that, if you and Israel continue to strike Iran, they're saying that they're going to start striking U.S. companies in the region. They're going to start striking U.S. bases. And Trump said, well, quite frankly, with what? What are you going to strike it with? BB guns? They have nothing. Apparently, they've got a lot. They've got a lot, and now Donald Trump is threatening a ground invasion. Now Donald Trump is threatening further escalation. Donald Trump yesterday was posting his war crimes, blowing up the biggest bridge in Iran, civilian infrastructure. That is a war crime, by the way. Donald Trump wants escalation. And really, I think Donald Trump is likely after a false flag. Maybe to make some operation that tries to get Americans involved or see more Americans die so that he can get us further involved in this war. So that can be his justification. Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu want Americans to die. Actually, let me rephrase that. Donald Trump and Israelis want Americans to die. I'm sorry that I keep harping on this. I'm actually not. It has to be said. There are going to be so many Democrats who couch their criticism of this genocidal maniac state in just Netanyahu and say, oh, Bibi's a bad guy and we should get rid of him. That's not it. Israelis support this war. Their government supports this war. Their government, their people elected, just passed a law, the first time since Nazi Germany, that allows the death penalty just for Palestinians. For military tribunals with no judge or jury, just we're going to start killing Palestinians. And they were wearing little lapel pins because they're going to be hanging people, innocent Palestinians, for nothing. They will make up crimes and they will continue to massacre them. And do you know who supports that? Israelis do. That's their government. A death penalty for different races. One race, death penalty. The other, no. It's not a democracy. That is an ethno-state. Okay? And so those people, that government in its entirety, its whole existence is supportive of this war that is going to be killing Americans. And they do not care. So let's make that very clear. They want it to happen because they want us further involved. They want further escalation. It is how they will distract the media and the rest of the world away from the fact that they are displacing already 1 million people, but soon to be more in southern Lebanon, because the Greater Israel Project is what they're after. Not regime change or blowing up a couple of missiles, but they need complete destabilization of the region. And they're going to let Americans die to make it happen. If there is a ground invasion, Israel has already said that it will not be sending the IOF, the Israeli Offensive Forces. We're not calling them the IDF. There's no defense. Israel has started all these wars. Let's be clear about that. They started this one. We didn't even start this one. We fell in line like a bitch because Donald Trump is a bitch. And too many people in our government are a bitch to Israel. But they're not going to be sending ground troops. They're not going to be sending troops to help us. We'll invade on their behalf, but Americans can die. They're not going to put boots on the ground. For their war. This is their war. And Donald Trump is now threatening to escalate it. He's threatening to escalate it. He's saying, well, quite frankly, I think we should do more. I think we need to go in and take the oil. What does that even mean? In what context? What are we taking? What is the oil that we're taking? What does that mean? What are you talking about? What's happening? What is the oil? If the oil was so important, if oil was so fucking important, you wouldn't have exploded its cost. And by the way, I said this earlier this year, that is the reason that we captured Maduro. That is the reason that we wanted regime change in Venezuela. That's why we killed hundreds of people there. Because Donald Trump needed to say, well, we have all this Venezuelan oil, right? So it's totally fine that we invade Iran. He thought that he would be able to subdue the effects of a war on Iran by first going into Venezuela, saying that he had taken the oil, and he thought that that would be able to justify, at least to the markets would stay a little calmer, when Donald Trump went after Iran. It had to be a domino. All of these things are happening because of Israel. That is why we went into Venezuela. It's because we needed to set up their war. If you think that, and there's again, a lot of Democrats who will say this, a lot of elected Democrats who don't want to ask or answer these questions, who will say that, oh, blaming Israel unfairly. Why do you always obsess about Israel? Why do you want to talk about Israel? We have gotten into these conflicts for Israel. Prices are exploding because of Israel. There are global market shortages of fucking everything because of their war. So maybe we shouldn't be beholden to that state. And maybe I'm not a crazy person in a tinfoil hat for saying that. And people who are dismissing it are dismissing the systems that are broken. It's very easy to point out a guy you don't like, but a system, that's tougher. Because these people are bought into the same systems. Big club, we're not a part of it. And those people we will call out. Republican, Democrat, I don't care. I'm fed up. Americans are dying, and they shouldn't be. This is insane. We're going to keep on calling it out on this show, and if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. Y'all leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.